Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 53 of Your Birth Bestie podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about planning for maternity leave and also budgeting for bringing home a new baby. I would love for you to leave this episode feeling a little bit more informed and also less stressed out about this new transition when it comes for planning on taking time off for maternity leave and still being able to manage things financially for your family. This is a huge topic when growing your family, and it is filled with a lot of unknowns, but I am excited to address some of your biggest questions and concerns and help you feel really good and prepared for the time you are taking off with your baby when they do arrive. Keep in mind, the right amount of maternity leave for you will depend on the type of job that you have, how demanding it is, also your physical and emotional postpartum recovery, as well as the individual support you have from friends and family in your community. So let's get into it. Hey there, I'm Beth Connors, a midwife and mom of two, but also your birth bestie. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into everything you need to feel confident, prepared, and in control, from baby bump to delivery room, from practical tips to personal stories. We'll cover it all so you know exactly what to expect every step of the way. Let's get into it. So let's start with understanding maternity leave. If you have been working in the United States for more than a year and the company that you work for has at least 50 employees, you are eligible for up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave under the Family and Medical Leave Act, or FMLA. The 12 weeks that FMLA does cover is for all of pregnancy and birth and postpartum recovery. So if you do decide to stop working before delivery for personal preference or a certain health condition that's going on, this time off before your baby arrives will also count towards those 12 weeks. For smaller companies, different policies may be a little bit different. So it's important to always learn more about your own company's maternity leave policy to better understand your rights and also the options that you have so you can make the best decisions and plan for this time off for you and your family. I also just wanted to give you an idea of what maternity leave looks like in general in the United States. And actually, only 12% of women have access to some form of paid maternity leave, while 178 countries guarantee paid maternity leave, but the United States is not one of these countries. There are also companies, like I mentioned, that have different policies based on paid versus unpaid and the amount of time that they allow employees to have off, many of which are very supportive of growing families. But of course, there are also many that are not. But I did want to highlight one company in particular, and that is Latched Mama, if you have heard of them. And I saw a post that they mentioned about their maternity leave maybe a year or so ago, and it has honestly always stuck with me. That's how powerful their message was about how they support women in their own brand and their company. They posted that when you support Latched Mama, you are not only supporting a small business, you are also supporting moms in the workplace. This is such a strong message, and I absolutely love this brand for that. And they go on to say that their maternity leave is 100 days off of paid time off, and the option after that is to bring your baby to work with you for the first year. And what stands out to me is not the 100 days of paid time off, which is of course amazing, but it's the continued support after that time off. It's not the expectation that you snap back into exactly the person and the employee that you were before you had your baby, because you are a completely different person in many ways. Your focus changes, your schedule changes, your emotions and your outlook on certain things changes. And for me to have the option to bring my baby to work with me and for my employer to be accommodating to that would be the best gift ever. Of course, I work in healthcare, and that is not at all possible for me to bring my child to work with me. But if I didn't and my employer was making accommodations to help me balance my work and my life, that is just so incredible and really also disappointing that it's not the norm in other companies. Latched Mama also says that they are a team of moms determined to trailblaze change in American work culture and create a community that empowers others to do the same. We firmly believe that no mother should have to choose between her career and being close to her precious baby. And I could not agree more. That first year can be so challenging as a mother, even if it's not your first baby. There is still a lot of transitions happening that having support like this from an employer is actually life-changing. So just wanted to shout out to Latched Mama for being one of those incredible businesses that are valuing moms in the workplace. And if you're not familiar with Latched Mama, they are a company that sells nursing apparel for breastfeeding moms, and it would be awesome if you could support them in their mission, and their products look so cute and so comfortable. So just wanted to shout that out as well, that they seem like a really, really great brand to support. So then once you become familiar with your employer's maternity leave policies, you will have to consider how much time you actually plan on needing or wanting for maternity leave. You will want to ask yourself if you want to take time off before baby is born, which again could cut into your time off in most cases. Some expectant parents prefer to pick a start date for their leave, such as a week to a month before baby is expected to be born, while others will wait until the last minute for maternity leave so they can maximize the time that they spend with their baby after they come home. In my experience, it was very unique that I was a student when I had both of my girls. In 2020, I was in my last semester of nursing school to earn my master's degree. And then in 2022, I had my second daughter 4 days after I graduated midwifery school. With my first, and this will probably be another podcast episode someday, I was originally told that I could have 2 weeks off to recover, and eventually a new policy changed between that time and the time that I had my baby, where I only was allowed to have 6 hours of unexcused time off. It was not even an equivalent to a full clinical day of work, right? Clinical day was like 8.5 hours, but I had 6 hours of unexcused time off is what they told me. So I decided to, stay the course of nursing school. I had my baby. It was a very traumatic experience. If you've been here for a little bit and heard my story, that is episode 2 of the podcast if you wanted to catch up with my first birth. And after all of that, I ended up returning to in-person clinical. I figured it out that I was able to take off 11 days. And so I returned on day 11 postpartum while still staying up to date with assignments and exams and everything else during those very few days postpartum. So it was a lot. It was by far the darkest point in my life, and I truthfully don't know how I got through any of it other than it was my only option. So I really just took it one day at a time. And not in an empowered, it's all going to be okay kind of way, but in a, this is the worst thing that I've ever done, but hopefully I make it through kind of way. And who wants to start their motherhood journey in this way? If I didn't finish out that last semester, I would have had to postpone taking my nursing certification exam called the NCLEX an entire year, which was not something that I had planned for. And I honestly wouldn't have been able to afford anything that I was expecting to have a nursing income that summer. So it was a huge stressor for sure with welcoming this new baby, this changing dynamic with my family, and then possibly the chance of not having a nursing job come that summer. I would have had to wait an entire year. So that was a little bit stressful. But anyways, the birth was traumatic. My nursing school situation was really rough. Postpartum was the worst part for me. And then the COVID lockdown happened when my daughter was only 6 weeks old. So none of these things would have been something that I could have prepared for in the way that I would have felt physically or emotionally. But I learned so much from this experience as a mom and also as a healthcare professional and as a person. Just overall, that is my silver lining from this experience, this really dark time, is that I learned so much and it propelled me forward to what I'm doing today. So going through what I did and supporting so many other moms in their own journey as well, my advice would be to work as long as you possibly can if that means that you will get more time with your baby postpartum, especially if you are feeling really good and you are physically able to work in pregnancy. Because if you are not and you have a really physically demanding job, then that is something obviously that's out of your control and you have to do what's best for you in that situation. But I really do encourage moms to continue their normal routine and work all the way up until labor. And I say that while still keeping in mind that those last couple of weeks before you're anticipating your baby to be born, I think you should absolutely prioritize rest and nourishing your body and hanging out with friends or family to reduce stress and anxiety, to really, promote those hormone changes to hopefully start labor at a good time for you and in a natural physiologic way. Also promoting connections with other people and taking some time for yourself. And then while you're figuring all of this out and how to create this balance for yourself in pregnancy and preparing for birth and preparing for postpartum and that time off, I would also say that it's really helpful to reach out to a friend that has gone through the same thing that you are going through right now in your company if you can, or at least in a similar situation, to see what worked for them and also maybe what didn't work for them. And then talk to your supervisor to make a plan that still makes you an employee that values their job and workplace while also maximizing what is best for your situation and leads to the best transition for when you leave and then for when you return back. One great way to do this is by reducing work hours until labor starts. And then when you have your baby and you are ready to go back to work, either starting up slowly for a few weeks and readjusting in that way, or maybe even working remotely temporarily. I will link resources from the Mom Project in the show notes below about maternity leave tips, but they have one guide for preparing for your return from maternity leave, and it includes that you should practice your routine, set your schedule, prioritize what's important, set realistic expectations, be transparent about what you need, and really just take it one day at a time. I think this is great advice for moms working outside of the home to remind themselves of this and plan ahead for when they will be leaving their baby eventually postpartum. So look for that link in the show notes. And the next thing I wanted to talk about was financial preparation, which can scare a lot of people because of how much baby stuff they think that they need or how expensive everything is. But I do have a few tips for you. I would have to say the most significant expense for parents is probably childcare, estimated to be on average about $1,000 per month for full-time care of an infant in daycare, or it can even be up to, $3,000 or more per month for a full-time nanny. And these are just averages, but I'm giving you an idea of how much childcare does cost if you maybe are unsure of this at the time. We put our oldest daughter in daycare when she was about 1.5 to 2.5, while my husband and I were both finishing grad school, and it was way more than I ever had considered before having kids. So if that's a shock for you, you are definitely not alone. The wait list also was something that surprised me for daycare centers because sometimes they're actually longer than it takes you to get pregnant, to stay pregnant for 40 weeks, and then, to have that 6 weeks postpartum when babies are usually able to be cared for in daycare centers at that 6-week mark. So we were getting onto wait lists that were like 10 or 12 months in our area at the time, which was also during COVID times, and numbers I think were more restricted. But regardless, it was a huge stressor and something I definitely wish I would have planned for sooner. You can also, as you're thinking about this, consider alternatives like family daycare, nanny shares, or flexible work arrangements to help manage your childcare scheduling and then also maybe reduce the expenses as well. The next big saver for me personally, and it might be something that you are totally against, but I promise you it is worth it if you can keep an open mind about it. But this is cloth diapering, and it is way easier than I thought it would be, and I am so glad that we made it past the first initial weeks of figuring out a really good wash cycle with our first baby, because that was honestly the hardest part of figuring out what kind of water you have, what kind of washing machine you have, and then what kind of diapers that you have, how many times you need to wash them. Those kinds of things like stressed me out so bad in the beginning. My baby was getting, butt rashes, and I was like, what is going on? But it was just a couple different things that we had to figure out. So if you are open to learning about cloth diapering. I think it is such a great way to save money, and it's great for the environment, can be reused for other kiddos if you're planning on having more babies. So that initial part is definitely challenging, but once you get past that, it is really, really amazing. We ended up only buying like 14 diapers, so it cost about $200 for all of the diapering supplies, and then we've used them for 4 years now, for multiple kids. So I think we have saved close to like $4,000 on diapers over the last 4 years. And just to give you an idea of how often we're washing these diapers, it's really like every other day. That worked for us. So if you can fit in maybe about 3 more loads of laundry into your week, I promise, will be good. There's also a Facebook page called Cloth Diapering for Beginners that I definitely encourage you to check out if you're interested, because there is tons of great information on there on how to get started and how to figure out your wash cycle and what diapers are the best to buy, and just figuring it all out from there. So definitely recommend joining that Facebook page. Also, making a realistic baby registry guide is another thing that I would recommend. And for me, I like to err on the side of minimalism, not overbuying for what I think I might need, but knowing if I do need it, I probably can get it overnight shipped for free with Amazon. So I created a list of essentials for mom and baby in a baby registry checklist that you can find on my website at bethconnors.com/checklist. And you can download that and help you get an idea of some of the baby items that I recommend during pregnancy, labor, postpartum essentials for your baby. And I made this list pretty comprehensive, and hopefully that you can use it as a really good guide to budget effectively as well, because I know it helped me a lot. And I also added a page on there about the common items that parents buy that are not necessary, maybe they don't use. So they're common to purchase them, but I don't think they're total necessities. So kind of more of a luxury item if you want to go that route. But I did want to list out several of those items too, if you're kind of on the fence, and give you an idea of my opinions about maybe why they can be items that you can skip. So definitely check out that checklist if you are creating your baby registry. One more thing about your baby registry as well is keeping in mind how many kids maybe you are planning to have. If you want a really big family, maybe it's worth it to invest in something more sturdy and durable, or more versatile with multiple purposes for a growing family that it might be a bit more pricey, or buying gender neutral items as well in case you have more children that aren't all of the same sex. I know I was very cognizant when I was having my first baby and buying more gender neutral items, because I knew we wanted to have a few kids and I thought that we would play it safe, even though it doesn't really matter. But here we are with baby number 3 that is a girl, that I could have bought all of the cute girly stuff for the nursery and girly clothes and have gotten 3 uses out of it. But obviously I can't plan for that, which is okay. It's just kind of funny. That's how I planned, and it hasn't been helpful in that way yet. But it's definitely a tip if you are looking to save money, to buy stuff that is gender neutral so you can reuse it potentially. Other expenses that add up include medical costs, any additions to your pregnancy or birth support team, like a doula or a lactation consultant, pelvic floor physical therapy, chiropractic, anyone else that you may be seeing for any pregnancy concerns. And then I did also want to mention photos is a huge one that can add up. Many moms invest in maternity photo shoots, maybe even birth photography or newborn photo shoots, all of which I love so much to capture these memories and moments with families, but they also aren't always accessible or affordable or even of interest to all moms. But something to think about ahead of time and plan for, and create in your budget if those are something that are important to you. And then also meal planning ahead of time can save money on wanting to buy pre-made meals when you are recovering and not wanting to cook, or you're sleep deprived and you just need to rest instead. So having this already made ahead of time can just be another little tip to consider planning for in pregnancy for that postpartum transition, and also if you are trying to stay within a tighter budget. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about today is maximizing your resources during your maternity leave. So kind of incorporating being on maternity leave in general and then planning for that, but also the financial aspect too. So don't hesitate to ask for help from your friends or family or community members that you trust. This is something that I definitely did not do enough with either of my babies. But even having someone take care of your older kids or meal prep or do small chores that take off from your daily task list is so helpful. I also recommend looking into government programs that are available for pregnant women and new parents to maybe save on food or medical costs, utility bills, internet services. These are just a few that I'm familiar with, but I'm sure there are more. It can also be helpful to join groups that are local to you on Facebook. There's lots of mom groups. If you just search for your city and then mom group, there'll be so many that probably come up. And getting advice from other women who are maybe just a few months ahead of you in this journey and can guide you on what's been helpful for them, especially in your area with different resources, can be a great resource. I am always learning of new things around me locally that are free in the community, different services or groups that, are just a really good way to get connected to different services that are looking to help make families make ends meet. So just a reminder to really be resourceful when you are planning for your baby and trying to be smart with your money. That is all I have for today. So thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. Don't forget to check out the show notes for those links to the Mom and Baby Essentials checklist that I created as a minimalistic baby registry guide, and also the maternity leave checklist from The Mom Project to help you plan step by step for your upcoming maternity leave. I hope this has been helpful for you to get started creating your maternity leave plan while also staying flexible to unknown situations. The main priority at this time should be finding the best way to bond with your newborn and take care of yourself during those first several months postpartum while creating the best work-life balance too. Thank you so much for being here, and I will be back next Tuesday for another episode. Bye, everyone.